very strange that I have a large nose, and I'll tell you why.
I guess you're privileged to have a big nose then, because you don't live in harsh conditions.
The habanero one? Holy fuck, dude. Woo! You know, maybe I've been treating this bike as some sort of parkour bike when really it's just a...
I once came face to face with a wild rhinoceros. That was pretty crazy.
I got stung by a bee once.
Welcome back to Burning Boat Business.
Yeah, welcome.
It's business time at Burning Boat, the podcast where we talk about
Once a week where we talk about business.
business and only business.
Oh shit, you got notes. Let's do it.
Just back to the good old two of us,
Yeah.
the boringer
So
halves.
much better, just the two of us, isn't it?
If the numbers of last week's podcast told us anything, it's that we are the least interesting part of this podcast.
Yeah. The most views when we have guests.
Yeah, rightfully so.
I think it's just more interesting.
I think they're
I
just
think
more
we
interesting.
I think we know that it's more interesting. It's just
Right.
easier to just be the two of us.
just be, yeah.
Because then we don't have to challenge ourselves at all.
Oh, you're saying it's better just the two of us?
I'm saying it's easier.
Oh, it's easier. Oh, for sure.
And
it's
that's
easier.
why we do it.
Yeah, that was a nightmare to edit that one.
Not even that. I just meant like we already know what the other person thinks about pretty much everything.
Oh, yeah.
So it's easy to talk about.
No.
Take that for granted. It's probably
Right.
a little more interesting when you have to explain yourself a little more.
Right.
Or someone's like, I don't get that.
And there were some good moments
Yeah.
of you being like, yeah, we can go on a hike now. He was like, what?
Oh, yeah.
I love it. I love it. Okay. But what we did lose was just the I think something that's been brushed over a little bit is that you finished your bet.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring it back.
We didn't talk about anything
No.
that we normally talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did finish my bet. So I was doing that bet where I was getting up at 5 a.m. for a month.
Right.
And I finished like a week ago.
So here are the hard questions.
Do it.
You stopped,
Yeah.
right? And we had talked about on a previous podcast, I think you said, I'd have to look it up, but something to the extent of if I stop, there either has to be a really good reason or it can't just be that it was uncomfortable.
Right. It wasn't like part of the bet that if I stop, there has to be a good reason. I was just
No.
kind of explaining that if I choose not to do something, it doesn't make any sense for me to stop doing something I've just spent a month building up as a habit,
Right.
unless there's like a serious negative aspect
Right.
to it.
And I thought it was interesting, so let's get into.
Yeah, there definitely was a negative. I just felt
First
like...
of all, maybe start with just how did the month go? I feel like we really haven't talked about it.
I feel like we have talked about it, but
Have we?
I can't remember.
Let's just go very quickly. What was
It-
the experience of
First couple of days, it was very exciting to be doing something
new?
new.
Yeah.
I think we talked about like the feeling of when you're up that early before everyone else, you feel like the king of the world because you've already gotten so much done by the time.
The 2 times
the
a
day
year that I
normally
do
starts.
it, I'm like, fuck you pieces of shit. Here I am up
Yeah.
at 5.
Same. I
Yeah.
felt great. Felt
Yeah.
like I was doing something really difficult and felt good about it.
Yeah.
And then that wears off very quickly, and
Yeah.
you start to think of all the reasons why you shouldn't do it, and that's
Right.
where the bet comes into play. And at one point, that's totally the only reason why I kept doing it.
Right, which
was
is why I
the
think
bet.
bets are good, yeah.
Because it forces you to have to figure out how to deal with the thing that isn't working.
Right.
It's easy to just be like, it's probably not good for me. I'm going to
Yeah.
do something else. But if you're doing a bet and you really don't want to lose,
It's also so
You gotta
easy
come up
to
with
be
something.
like, oh, this isn't
yeah,
going to be, I'm just going to stop.
you start to justify it.
Yeah, totally.
Phoebe and I had an interesting conversation the other day, which was, she said, well, in theory, then wouldn't it be more of a challenge to just do it without it being a bet? Sometimes get up
Right.
early? Because I think what I've come to the conclusion of, we'll go through what it was like,
Yeah.
is that it makes sense for me to do it here and there, but to make it an everyday thing
Right.
is just...
Tough.
I just felt like I couldn't get enough sleep.
Yeah.
It just took away from my sleep
Right.
and made me just kind of a little bit depressed, I think.
Mm.
Like mentally foggy, unclear about certain things. Not necessarily like slower at editing or anything like
Right.
that. It wasn't like, I just feel like I'm not doing good work. It was more like, I feel like I'm not enjoying things that I normally would enjoy.
Right.
And getting just like frustrated quicker, having a
'Cause
shorter...
You're also out of sync with people. You know,
A little
I
bit.
show up to work. I've been
And
up
I've
for
already been
30
going
minutes.
for- yeah, exactly.
You've been up for 4 hours. I'm sure the same with Phoebe.
Yeah.
It's when it's 9 o'clock, you're dead tired, and she's like, dude, let's hang.
Right, in the evening.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I struggled going to bed earlier because normally I'd say, okay, you're going to get up at 5. You still need to go to bed
Right.
at a certain time so that you get enough sleep.
Right.
But, she's not tired, and I've only just kind of gotten off work, so I'm also wanting to hang out with her.
Right, of course.
So it doesn't make any sense for me to just suddenly go to sleep at 8:30 or 9 in the
no,
evening.
no.
So go to bed kind of the same time as I
Right.
used to.
Right.
Like between 10 and 11.
Yeah.
More so 11
Yeah.
than 10. So the middle of the challenge was also, it kind of went like in waves.
Yeah.
So the first week was good, then the second week was bad in terms of like I just struggled to be enthusiastic about it.
Right.
And I think when you're struggling to be enthusiastic about it, you're also looking at all the negative sides of it, and you're not as motivated to do like all of the things that you wanted to do in the first place, and then you
Right.
feel stupid for not doing the things that you're getting
Right.
up early for, and then you end up just having wasted time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of got out of that, and the third week was great again. I was watching a lot of films, which I
Yeah.
really enjoyed, and then getting back into the meditation and like journaling and really doing mindful exercises first thing.
Yeah.
And then I kind of like miscalculated something. I think in my head I was like, oh, I only have like a couple days left, when in reality I had 9 days left.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the last week again was also hard. Yeah, it's different being out of it now, because I'm like, oh, it wasn't that hard. But when you're in it,
I mean, also little things like when you had said, I feel mentally foggy.
yeah,
It's like a minor inconvenience, but I've had that. I
Yeah.
told you that. Like, and it's like, it's the worst.
yeah,
It's like I would do anything to get rid of that slight unclarity or slight feeling of like, if that's what you were saying.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, then I would also be like, yeah, it's not hard to get up, but if I'm not getting the sleep, and if I can't justify going to bed and not spending time with the person I love, and I have to be like, it's what I always think about. Like Mark Wahlberg wakes up at like 2 a.m. He must go to bed at like 6, 7 p.m.
yeah.
That sounds awful to live with. Like, hey, let's have a conversation. No, I'm going to bed.
Yeah,
I'll be up at
Nah, I
2.
definitely don't want to do that.
You know, like
at
why?
all.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not quite as extreme. But
I think maybe another element was that I was really building off of the momentum, so I kind of kept piling stuff on.
right,
So I was still doing the challenge from the previous month, which was working out 6 times a week, and I
Right.
was doing even more
right,
because I had more time.
Mm-hmm.
So there was days where I would get up, go to the pool, swim 2.5 kilometers, come home, work a full day, then run to the climbing gym,
right,
work out at the climbing gym
right. And
by
run
climbing, and then do a body exercise
Right.
workout, and then run home.
home. Insane.
And I was really getting into it, and it was like, I felt like it was good.
Yeah,
And then I think you just reach a point where, I've kind of reached some kind of a limit,
yeah,
and you start to have to decrease it a little bit. And I think mentally, you've set like these standards that are so insanely high that when you're not doing that, because you know you're capable of doing
Yeah.
that, doing just a little bit less because of the mental fogginess a little bit. That's what I meant by normally I'd be able to rationalize, okay, well, I can't just keep doing that for 7 days a week. I have to take a day off.
Right.
But it was starting to like get me upset, which was the weird part. I felt like I didn't have control over how I felt about certain things.
Okay.
Which I didn't enjoy for obvious reasons.
yeah,
I felt like just normal things that I'd be able to easily understand emotionally, I wasn't able to understand. I was like, why do I feel bad about not having done something that I, for very good reason, chose not to do because I
Right.
feel tired?
right.
Stuff like that.
Yeah,
So then last week when I was able to sleep again, I just felt like immediately, like pretty much immediately the next day, I was like, whoa, like,
okay.
ah.
Yeah,
And there's something that kind of just clicked back or something, where I felt like I could think about certain things again.
And do you think that, correct me if I'm wrong, but the reason you wanted to do it in the first place is to have a little bit more time just to yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that was good to have that?
Yeah,
Or overrated?
So that's
or-
the thing that, like, I still want that. And I
Right.
still liked that.
Right.
Like, I was able to watch more films in that month than I watched all year.
Yeah.
And not just, like, films for entertainment, but films
Right.
to, like, study them and
Right.
to analyze them and to learn from my... Oh, God. I got a little...
Did he poop?
I think the dog pooped. And we're back.
And we're back.
I was saying that, yes, the time to myself,
Yeah.
definitely good. As in, I was using it to, like I said, with the films. I
Right.
feel like that was, to me, the main thing. Like, I think of that month, and I think of all the films I watched and how much I felt like I learned by watching them. At that time, totally focused. Just nothing else to distract you at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
Which I definitely already miss a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's like I see myself doing it on occasion.
Right.
Like, I'm going to get up early to watch a movie, as weird as that sounds.
Yeah. Well, I find that sounds the whole, like, well, why don't you just do it without a bet? Because I feel like I've had that question a couple times too. And it's like, yeah, if you could do that,
Yeah, why
That's
don't you
great.
just do it? Yeah.
it's the same as me saying, I'll just smoke a cigarette every once in a while. I just have a personality that's either like, I'm doing it or I'm not doing it. There is no
Yeah, because
sort of
there's a
in between, you know. Of course, you can get up early, but if I was like, I'm going to get up early tomorrow to watch a movie,
yeah.
it'd be so hard to get up.
Yeah, it's not easy to get up.
No.
I mean, that's a whole nother.
Especially if it's not a routine, then it feels like a very out of place sort of like,
okay, this is another element of
Yeah.
the whole challenge. So at the beginning, I felt like the disciplinary act of physically getting out of bed
Right.
straight away,
Right.
because I set the alarm in a different room,
Right.
So I was waking up Phoebe
That's good.
without getting up. So I'd literally hear it, and there'd be no
right.
time to even think.
You'd shake Phoebe, get up, get up. Oh, wait, it's just me. Never mind, go back to bed.
Everyone up! No, it's just me. And then suddenly you're just standing in the living room. You just turn off your alarm, and
Yeah.
you're like,
All you want to do is,
yeah, and you have to keep doing stuff.
Yeah.
Then you start by meditating, and you make
Right.
coffee, and then you write some stuff in a journal, and
Right.
you visualize things, you go through your whole routine. And it's like you're telling yourself to do it, and you're doing it even though you might not necessarily want to do it.
yeah,
A big part of you wants to just go back to sleep.
yeah,
And I feel like that mindset bleeds into the rest of your day, where you just kind of do stuff.
right.
And you keep thinking about the way you started your day, and I might as well kind of keep it up now, because it feels
think-
really good at the end of the day.
Right. And the point of the bet is to say, like, oh, I'm in a solid state of mind right now.
Mm-hmm.
What is something that I know I would like to do? Mm-hmm. That if you asked me in the morning, I'll tell you, no, actually, I don't want to do that. But from my sober state of mind right now, let me just say it. And then it becomes a much more like you don't have a choice in the matter. I feel like as soon as you
Right.
give yourself a choice in certain things, it's like, yeah, you're always going to probably
You don't
lean
feel
towards the
the
more
same.
comfortable thing.
You don't feel the same all the time.
No.
So if you feel one way right now, and you know to an extent that this is more you,
Right.
or more of what you actually want,
Right.
than you in the morning, or you
I mean, it's
at a
just so
different
hard when I used to
time.
work out in the morning. It's like every time I did it, I was like, this is amazing.
I'm gonna keep
I would
doing
still
this.
wake up and be like, should I not do this?
Yeah, definitely.
And I know, I was like, oh, I'm going to feel like shit because I really need to do this. I go back to bed, wake up, feel like shit.
Yeah.
I'd be like, why did you not just, you know, and then you start to realize, oh, okay, I got to pack my bag the night before. I got to have everything ready.
Yeah,
And
there's
I
so
just
many
gotta
little
fucking
things.
go.
And then people are like, well, why don't you just do it? I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Why don't you just do what you said you wanted
well,
to do?
just- it's hard where
I don't think there's obviously a reason why there are things we want to do that we don't do.
Right. Also, the whole idea of like, I think when you wake up, I should look this up, but
Yeah.
I think your brain is fully not it's like literally there's still parts of you that haven't fully woken up in the brain. Like you wake up in a very weird state of mind,
Yeah.
literally, which is not somebody you want to trust
No.
with like a decision like that.
Same way you wouldn't want to trust you when you're drunk.
Right,
or
so you
when you're high. Or
Strip out all the sort of like, what do you call it? The ability to even question it. And then it's like, well, that's just what I'm doing. Because I feel like I do with a lot of things, like doing the movie. It's like you just tell enough people that you're going to do it. And you're like, God, if I don't do this now,
Yeah, I'd rather not deal with
I'd
that.
rather go through the shit of making that movie than having to tell all these people and have them all smugly look at me like, I knew you weren't going to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then what happened was that, like, the last week, I felt like that wasn't bleeding into the rest of my day. It was almost like I was depleting it in the morning. And
Right.
I felt like I was just lazy
Right.
later on. It was like I didn't want to.
It does sound like waves.
Yeah.
First week good, second week bad, third week good, fourth week
Yeah.
bad again.
And it's like, wow, why? Well, now it really doesn't make any sense to be
Right.
pushing myself to do this. Like, I'd force myself to go to the pool and swim.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I'm not feeling that reward of having finished the swim, feeling really good about myself. I was just kind of like,
Okay.
oh, now I got to go home and, like, now I got to do this. And
Yeah.
I'm like, why am I thinking like this?
Yeah.
Why am I feel like that's where the sleep was affecting me, where it's like I wasn't getting that endorphin rush of the
see.
physical workout or being able to think ahead of how this is going to make me feel later in the day.
Yeah.
Or later in the day being able to remember how I started the day.
Yeah.
It's just like everything kind of got foggy. And so I
Yeah.
wasn't able to focus on
Yeah.
making the most out of the day.
Isn't that
I
weird?
think that makes sense.
It does make sense. And it just made me think of high school. And I find it so strange that we have this obsession with, I think everyone's sleep schedule is so vastly different just across the board. And I think if it comes down to it, everyone needs a different amount of sleep. Everyone sleeps better at different times. Everyone's got their own little thing going. I just remember in high school how many kids would show up just dead tired, including myself, kind of falling asleep in classes and stuff, right? Because you're a fucking idiot and you're staying up till 1 or 2 in the morning as a kid, doing God knows what.
Yeah.
But just that we're so like, no, that's what you need to do to be an adult.
Is get up early?
Is get up early.
Uh-huh.
And if you can't do that, then you can't do. That there's just no flight. Even when I worked, in a production, I was quite relaxed, to be honest. I think we started at like 10 or something. Just that little bit of extra time just really allowed me to be like, get enough sleep, come to work awake, not be like groggy, not be falling asleep while someone's trying to tell you something. There's nothing worse than like being in a classroom and falling asleep and the teacher's like
Yeah.
pissed at you and you're like, I'm not trying to fall asleep. Yeah, that was my fault for staying up late last night. I'm also 12. I wanted to watch SpongeBob under my covers for 4 hours. Sorry. I don't know. I find it interesting. And I feel like a lot of people are sleep deprived. Don't get enough. So, like, I sleep a lot now.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's not
Maybe it has
something
a big
anybody
effect.
would be proud of.
Yeah.
To be like, oh, I sleep 8, 9. I think people would be like, oh, you're kind of lazy. I'd be like, I just feel way better to never feel tired during the day.
I think it's an interesting thing to test out.
Yeah.
Kind of like, we'll see, how do you feel on this amount of sleep? How do you feel on this amount of sleep?
Right.
And you can start to see that there's actually a big effect.
Right. And I think, honestly, it's just like I've talked to my mom. She said she needs a lot of sleep. You look at people like, it might be like outliers, but like, Salvador Dali said he slept like 16 hours a day. And that's just what he did. And I'm like, yeah, if that's what you need. That's what you need.
If that's what you need, like
Yeah.
having actually tried both sides.
Right.
I feel like
There's also a difference between sleeping and then laying in your bed for 2 hours in the morning
Yeah.
on your phone. I think that's totally different as well,
Yeah.
Or having bad sleep habits, or whatever. But if the point is just, I need 9-10 hours of sleep a night. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know
I
where
think
I'm going with that.
No, I think I don't need a lot of sleep, but I feel like I need more than 5.5 hours.
That's
6.
insane. Yeah.
I mean, I think also the older you get, the less you need. So I'd be interested to try it again later
I see.
and see, maybe now that's all I need.
I see. Yeah, I love me some good sleep. Yeah. All right. So you're not doing it now, but you might try to.
I'm already like, there's already been days where I'm like, ooh,
I might.
tomorrow I might do it.
Okay. But did you?
No.
Cool. Anything else you want to say about that? Because I'll move on.
No.
Okay. Because I want to move on to my bet.
Oh, okay.
And, I'm about to hit a month, I think. I'm on a 28-day Duolingo streak. No big deal.
Yeah.
And there's some tweaks I want to make and run past you.
All right.
Okay. Because as you do these things, I think you start to realize like, oh, well, it just makes sense to do this instead of this weird workaround thing that I'm doing now. So the first thing would be like the social media stuff, right? So just to reiterate, I'm not on Facebook. I'm not doing any social media. I'm not even allowed to check it.
Yeah.
Ever. But then I keep on going to you and being like, hey, some people commented on this.
That I've told you about.
Right. Permission to go on Facebook.
To reply
To the comments or whatever.
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't make more sense that on Sundays I give myself like a 30-minute window to just go through everything, check everything. I get a little update too once a week on like, oh, how's Instagram doing? I don't have to ask you because I am curious.
Yeah.
I don't want to check it every hour, but once a week is nice to know like, how did the posts do? Or like, what did people think about that? Was that one good? Was that one bad? So I think something like a 30-minute window on Sundays where I'm allowed to go and reply and even just, I can surf for 20 minutes if it only took me 10 minutes to reply.
Right. If you have 30 minutes, you can do whatever the fuck you want.
Just see what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
I think that would be nice. And that sort of balances it nicely where it's not like
it would
I
be
need to
useful.
go to you and
it would
be
be
like,
useful.
hey,
Yeah.
can you
Not
check
just
my
nice.
posts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that is
stupid.
it is also like,
You're always
what-
like, yeah, don't ask.
what am I going to say?
Well, you could say no.
Right. But like, why would I say no?
Yeah. And it's also like it's
I
back to the thing.
Get it.
You know
What's wrong?
what the bet is and what would
Yeah.
be going against it, right?
100%.
I think you always know deep down. So it's like, yeah, that is not against what the point. The point is that I just shouldn't be checking it and be like obsessed or like post something and then just be like checking it constantly,
Yeah. Like with my 5 a.m. thing, I know that it wouldn't count for me to get up, sit there for 20 minutes and then go
Right.
back to sleep.
Right.
Like there's a reason why I'm doing it. It has to last a certain amount of time. It can't just like, I can take a nap later in the day if I want
Yeah.
to, but I don't think I did except for maybe once.
Okay.
And like that's kind of what it's about.
Yeah, exactly. So I think everyone knows themselves. So is that something that would be okay with you? I need to check all these with Kevin as well.
Definitely.
Um,
Why are you having a bet with him as well?
yeah,
All right. Oh,
Same
yeah,
bet.
you mentioned that.
just another. I just got him to do it as well. Then I would like to force myself to have to do my meditation pre-work. Whether that be I do it in my chair before we go, or I try to do it at home before I even get here. I just feel like there's no point to the way I'm doing it, which is just pushing it to the end of the day. And it's good. I still feel good after doing it. But I'm like,
You benefit
I'm
more
like
from
getting
it in the
ready to go
morning.
to sleep.
Yeah.
And now I'm in this clear state of mind, which is fine, but I don't really have problems sleeping to begin with. I'd rather be like at the beginning of the day, like, oh, what am I going to do? What, let me go into this with a good mindset. I just feel like that's a good, like, hey, you got to do it before 12 o'clock or just before you start working or whatever.
That's good.
I'd like to add pull-ups on work days.
100? Oh, that's a
That's a
bit
lot. I don't
much.
even know. I got to figure out a number
like
with
50,
you. But I think it'd be
50.
cool if we both did it.
I'm down.
And just because we've got that thing right there and we never fucking use it. I mean, I see you use it every once in a while. I always feel awkward. I'm like, it feels like I'm like,
I'm also, you're like right behind me.
yeah, like bumping my butt into you and stuff. And like, maybe if it's more of a like I have to do it, then it's
Okay.
like, oh, there's Taylor doing this.
I'm, okay, 50.
50
Ooh,
pull-ups.
50, how many is that?
God, that would take a long time to start.
10. That's a lot.
What if we did?
Should we do 40 or 30? 40 maybe? When I
I'd
do a home
ramp it
workout,
up. 'Cause
I
even
do
the
50.
push-ups now, I'm like, I could easily ramp them up.
Yeah.
Um,
So wait, let's start with an easy 30 for the rest of this week.
30 for the rest of this week. Then we'll go to 40, and then we'll go to
see.
50.
And we'll see.
Okay, we'll see
Like, we'll increase it accordingly.
accordingly. Cool. I've thought about not doing anything on the computer, just period. I'm gonna think about that more though.
What do you mean?
Like no Netflix, no nothing.
Like when you get home?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck that.
God, I would be so bored.
Yeah, what
But,
would you do, man?
I don't know.
Right?
Cook, right?
Cook, right? I'm think I'm about ready to set a new bet.
Oh yeah, me too. Although I'm still already in two. But there's just something that annoys me about my tendency to like, I cut out the drinking, I cut out the weed, and now it's like this computer is kind of the last vestige of like this like weird. I come home, I don't even question it. Sit on the couch, get on my computer, or I'll cook dinner, then get on the couch, sit on my computer. And I'm not doing anything bad. I'm doing things that I find productive. I'm especially now with the reading and stuff.
But you still feel like you need it.
I just feel like I would be lost without it. And I've said this before. I'm like, what do people do when they go home when you are single?
Yeah.
And that's not me crying out for a relationship. It's just questioning, like, what is everyone else doing? I'm just curious. Because I don't have the money to have, like, crazy hobbies at the moment. Because in my head, I'm like, this is the lamest shit I'm about to say, right? But I'm like, I'd like to get, like, a Lego set and just kind of, like, build that by myself with some music or do a puzzle or, like, I'm basically 80 years old, in a 24-year-old's body. But it's like, what do people do? Because it's also dark. It's like, we're in Denmark. It's not like you can go out and like, I don't know why.
I think work out. People would go to the gym.
Yeah, I mean, we do that.
Go climbing.
Yeah.
Go running.
Yeah.
But
I also like to
TV
relax. As a
show.
thing. I feel quite not stressed out, but we push quite hard during the day.
It's definitely a mental. I feel very mentally drained after we've finished work.
Yeah, exactly.
In a good way, not
Me
like
too.
we're struggling. I just feel
No.
like, whoa.
I've used all
there's
my
a lot
energy.
of brain power there.
Yeah. And I feel totally fine with sitting on the couch. I don't feel guilty. I'll watch a movie. I think it's
neither
very
do I.
productive.
Yeah.
But it's just this curiosity of like, it has become a habit. That is the first thing that I'll go to. And I'm just curious, what would I do if I didn't have that? But that's
It'd be an interesting experiment because you could set it as an experiment and have it instead. Because what we do is we'll say a month, right? And then after a week, we'll realize the negatives,
right,
as well as the positives.
Right.
But then you're very tempted to want to be like, I want to
Right.
change it now to be this.
right.
So maybe do that. Set it for a week.
That might be interesting. I'll see when. I also want to think about it a little more. Maybe I want to be prepared with like, what do I want to do?
Yeah.
Because again, the computer is such a vast. You do so many things. I play chess on it. I do everything on that computer. But there's also a bit of me of like, I spend all day
On a
in front of
computer.
a computer. So
Yeah.
I don't really want my hobbies
That's true.
to be like sitting in front of the computer. Again, I'm doing things that are productive to me.
Yeah.
They're all
You're not like
zoned in.
mindlessly watching YouTube.
No, that's totally cut out now. So it's either I'm watching a movie.
That you've chosen for a reason.
Right. The worst thing that I'd do if I'm really brain dead is I'd watch a TV show. And then I'll play chess. I have this good blog that I'm reading at the moment. Wait, but why? There's all these things. I listen to music. I'll just listen to an album or something. But I'm still I'm still, very tuned into the computer, sitting on the couch in front of a computer, and for a good 2 to 3 hours.
Well, think about it.
Think about it.
Because
And leave a comment on what the hell people do at home when they get home.
Yeah, what does everyone do when they finish work after they've had dinner?
Right.
Or maybe,
What do you do?
what do I do?
Yeah.
Well, after we finish, either we'll go climbing,
Right.
or I'll go for a run,
Right.
or I'll help make dinner or make dinner,
Right.
and we'll eat dinner,
Yeah.
usually while we watch something
Okay.
at the same time.
Okay.
And then recently we've been either continuing whatever it is we watch, if it's good, like it's something that we'll use to see if we like something. So we'll eat dinner and start like a Netflix original film,
Okay.
which I feel like is a hit or miss.
Yeah.
It's never like, it's not always good.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, oh, what the fuck is
Yeah.
that? So you can like judge it
Yeah.
for like the 10, 15
You got
minutes or
it.
whatever. And then you're like, okay, no, we don't want to watch that.
Yeah.
Or you continue watching. And then we've also been playing Scrabble,
Yeah.
which is fun. It's
Yeah.
like a
Very cute.
brain game as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can just talk as well.
Yeah.
Do a lot of
That
that.
sounds like we're all just 80-year-olds.
Maybe. Talk about baby stuff.
Yeah.
Take the dog out.
Yeah.
Not like anything
Yeah,
revolutionary.
maybe I'm just thinking. I'm in my head. I'm like, I've always got these images of people like carving wood at home or like doing weird
Well,
shit like that. Like, I'm going down to the shop, to my basement to carve some fucking.
Well,
I don't know.
I think we've kind of touched this before, which is we're doing our passion
Right.
as our job.
Right.
So I don't feel like there's this massive need to do the other
That's very
thing
true.
that you really
That's
want to
very
be
true.
doing. Although the thing that I want to make my new challenge,
Is writing your film.
yeah,
Yeah.
I want to work on it every single day.
Yeah, see, that would be my thing, and that was my thing for a long time.
And that's what I'm actually making that challenge now. It's not something I want to think about anymore. I've
Okay.
already thought about it.
Just do it.
Every single day,
Yeah.
I want to work on my film. And here's the thing.
Here's the thing.
I can write a scene
Yeah.
on Monday because I'm really feeling it,
Yeah.
or whatever, notes or something.
Yeah.
And then not write cut to at the end of it and save that for Tuesday. And that can be all I work on it on Tuesday is write cut to. I've worked on it that day.
Okay.
So if I don't want to work any more than that, I don't have to. But
You
I
need
have
to
to
at
go to
least
the
open it.
computer, open it up, write cut to.
Okay.
And then I've worked on it. Because half of the time, I'm not going to just write cut to.
Right.
I'm going to keep working on it a
Yeah,
little bit
yeah.
or think about or reread what I wrote
Right.
or whatever.
Right.
And I think that's just a good way of, yeah, if there is a Sunday when I don't want to be working,
Yeah.
I can use that. I
Yeah.
can just go in and I can correct one little thing.
Yeah.
And I don't
Yeah.
have to do it anymore. I've completed the challenge.
Yeah.
But if there were part of me that was like, oh, I've already mentally kind of gone there.
Yeah.
So then I can keep working on it.
I don't think that would work for me. But it sounds interesting. I'm
In what way?
interested. I think I would just get too used to then just writing cut to a bunch of times.
We'll
Whereas
see.
what did help me was, who said, I think Tim Ferriss said it about writing his book. It's like you tell yourself, I'm going to write, even if it's just half a page every day, even if it's total garbage. And you're writing it and you're like, this is garbage. This is hot garbage. This sucks. But I got to write this half page. And then it's like slowly you piece all that hot garbage together. And you're like, oh, that one's actually not that bad on the days that you felt good. But then at least on the days, even where you're writing vindictively almost, like, fuck this.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's a nugget in there somewhere that at least you wouldn't have gotten if you had.
And you do have
at
to
least sat down.
activate that part of your brain a little bit more
Yeah,
than
exactly.
just having saved.
Because I know myself, I would start to go crazy with the like, oh, I did work on that today. I put a period there.
It's interesting because that is,
But
yeah.
you might be more disciplined than me. I feel like
I don't know, maybe.
find outs very quickly.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll see. Maybe I can give
I'm a little
myself
weasel.
and give myself a week to kind of test it out. But maybe like a week, it's easy to do. I've gotten back. The other thing is, I'm still not, and we've talked about this briefly, but I'm still working out quite big things.
Right.
I'm not at the point where I'm like writing dialogue or
Right.
writing scenes. I'm
Right.
still collecting this massive thought
Right.
into a structure. I'm like creating it like that. So it's a lot of like brainstorming. It's
Yeah.
a lot of like moving stuff around.
But that
and
you could count that.
I am counting that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you'd have to finish that, and then the grind would start of just.
Yeah, just writing it.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a very clear point where I want to get to, and then I'm like, okay, now I feel comfortable starting the actual writing because I feel like now I can start to solve the issues by writing.
Right.
I don't want to have massive holes because of the nature of what I'm writing, which is very fragmented. I
Yeah.
don't want to be wasting time fixing problems that I think would make sense to just get clear on to start out with.
For sure. I think it's the same as drawing or like sculpting,
Yeah.
not that I've ever done it, but the idea that you would do, I think it's like, because we're beginners at this,
Yeah.
it's like, the same with a sculpture, I'd imagine. Well, you get the general shape first,
Yeah.
and then you start to do the details. I'm
Yeah.
sure a master can fucking go in and just start chiseling a nose, and he's like, oh, no, the proportions will be right. But if I went and started with the nose, the fucking eyes would be in the wrong place, the fucking mouth would be in the wrong, if I
Exactly.
hadn't at first kind of outlined everything,
I think
set
masters
myself
would
up.
do exactly that too. They would know. It just doesn't make any sense to try and figure out where the nose is before I've like figured out where the shoulders and the neck is.
Right.
It's
No,
like-
but I mean, I've seen like painters who are just like, you're like, damn, how did you? And it's like they've just done it so many times.
Maybe.
I feel like the same with writing. I'm sure you write 20, 30 scripts.
I'm sure
at some
there are-
point, You're
yeah.
like, I can just start.
I'm sure there are parts
And
that I
think
could actually write now because
Yeah.
I know that they're not going to change, or
Right.
I know that won't necessarily affect anything major later on.
Right.
But yeah, so okay.
Anyways,
Is there a way though that I can? Because what I want is I don't want to get stuck in this feeling of hating the fact that I have to work on it
Right.
because I don't feel inspired.
Right.
I also hate this thing of I don't need to feel inspired to work on it.
right.
But like where it's just in the way. It does not make sense to force half an hour of just working right now
Yeah.
because I need to go to bed.
Well, don't say half an hour then. Say like, I'll just, for 10 minutes, I'm going to brainstorm. If you're still in that area,
At least 10 minutes.
which is like nothing,
That is nothing.
which is fine.
That's good. That's
And then
more
on-
than cut two
on
though.
good days, because that's what I used to do, where I'd be like, okay, I'm going to write for 30 minutes or whatever. On good days, I'd write for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
On bad days, like literally 29:29 or 29:59, 30, boom, done. Okay, oh, thank God, that was horrible.
That's good. Maybe
You
10
know?
minutes is good because I want to be able to, like, I have to go and sit down and do it, but I also have the
Right.
opportunity to literally just do
Right.
that. So 10 minutes might solve that.
And I think it's also just it's a game of numbers. It's like the more you try, the more often you will find those flow states.
You'll learn more about what works and what
Yeah,
doesn't.
and you know that moment, that day where you get so much done. But it's like, yeah, you can increase the number of those days.
Yeah.
But there's still gonna be shit days in the middle where you're just
Yeah.
like, fuck this. Like, this isn't going anywhere.
That's good.
But anyway, that goes nicely back to the whole idea of, I think that was my identity for so long, is that I went to work and then I went home and I had this bigger project to work on. And then when I was done, we were editing it now and everything, I was very aware of like, I don't want to fill that space with anything else because it's been so like, I've been doing that for so long. Let me just have a space of nothingness that I can just do nothing, which is nice. But now I'm kind of getting to the point where it's like, I could start something again.
That's good.
Maybe that's it. Maybe it's like starting to write the next film or something as well. Who fucking knows? I don't really want to bury myself in something though while I'm still trying to finish something else. But maybe that's just
I don't know.
justifying as
I
well.
have no idea.
I have no idea either.
Don't know. I don't. Yeah. Try.
Well, let us know
See.
what you fucking people do at night. What do people do? I don't know. We are. How far are we? Jesus Christ. What do I want to get into?
I have another thing.
What do you
for
wanna
the-
get into?
for the bets? Because, so going off of how I started to feel like I was getting lazy towards
Right.
the end of my challenge, it was like it was depleting my discipline.
Yeah.
It was having an effect on my running.
Yeah.
It was like, ugh, I just don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to.
Yeah.
So I want to implement the running a certain amount of times in a week back into a bet for a month just to kind of get back into it. I am getting back into it.
Yeah.
It's only like, it's like a week or a week and a half of,
Yeah.
I only went on one run, but I could just feel myself justifying not going for runs when I had time.
I see.
So I know kind of what that is. So I want to do something like either a certain distance. That might be interesting. I've never done that. I've always done a certain amount of runs. Like I have to go for
Right.
4 runs a week.
Right.
But that could be like 5K runs.
Right.
5K is the smallest number I'll do
Okay.
as a run. So maybe I could do like a distance. I have to hit this many kilometers a week.
I like you.
I like that too.
It's weird. It's scary because when you do that, because I have both
Do you
at the
have a
moment.
pen?
I've got the reading for 5 hours a week, which is exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's not saying I need to read every day this
Yeah.
much. It's just saying 5 hours a week.
I like
The
it.
thing that it allows, though, is that you can push everything to the last day
Right. But
So-
then I also know that I physically might not be able
to run that much. I love it. I can't wait till the day where you're like, "Till I need to run 80 kilometers today." Be like, let's
It's
get
not-
it.
It's not gonna be fucking 80 kilometers. Relax. Okay, so here's a
What's that? I
typical.
don't even know
Here's
what
a
is,
typical week, right? I'll do 5K,
Yeah,
then I'll do 10K, and then I'll do 21K,
yeah.
and then maybe I'll do another 5K randomly somewhere. So that's 10. That's 20. That's 41 kilometers.
Make it 42.
Or you make it 50.
Ooh,
So that would mean I'd have to
do
do a
10 5K runs or 5 10K runs. 5 10Ks. 5 times a week, you'd have to run 10K.
I like the idea of setting a distance. I've never done that before. I think that might add a new element of excitement.
That's interesting.
So that means I'd have to I have to run a 25K at the end of the week because I only ran,
Yeah.
which is what I do anyways
Yeah.
on Sundays. It's like that's the long day. That would be determined, how the length of it would be determined by how much I did that week. Say
Right.
we go climbing, right? We go climbing maybe two times, 3 times. That right there is, if we go climbing, that's 10K automatically because I
Okay.
run there
Okay.
and back.
Yeah.
So if we go climbing 3 times, that's 30 kilometers.
So you'd be left with 20.
And then I only have half a marathon. That's good though. That seems like a challenge.
Jeez.
50K a week.
That's up to you. I can't even comprehend. I mean, I don't know what that is.
It's definitely a lot, but it's also like I'm getting closer and closer to.
The triathlon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing then is that it kind of doesn't leave much room for the swimming part of it.
I want you to figure it out. You don't need to figure it out on the podcast.
Nah,
I think
I like this is exciting
We can get. It's not exciting.
to me.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I can do that. So 50 kilometers a week running,
Okay.
and the 10 minutes of writing a day, or working on the film.
Wait, I have one more thing. Now you're gonna be like, definitely no, because this makes my life easier. I wanted to add one smoke day, so it'd be two drinking days, but 3 smoking days.
So Friday, Saturday, Sunday
I would like the smoking day just
to
to
be whatever you choose it to
Yeah.
be.
because
Tell me why. Sell
So-
it. Pitch it to me.
for those of you who don't know, like on Sunday, for example, my roommate was out of town, and I texted you and I said, "Hey, I'm alone in my apartment. I'd love to smoke a joint right now. Can I?" Right? And you said, "Yeah, whatever."
Whoa, but I didn't see the message.
Right.
So then you wrote me on a different way, saying, check your messages.
Right.
2.5 hours
Hello.
later.
Well, I was also doing your laundry, which was in the washer, wet. And I was like,
My
"Do I
Hang on,
dry
he
it?"
borrowed sheets.
Sorry, that
to
came out wrong. I didn't mean it
to use.
Yeah. I don't do his laundry. I was washing those sheets, and I had a shirt of yours, and I was like, "Do I dry this? Do I not?" Also, yeah, another way to get to you, and I was like, "Check your messages." And you're like, "Yeah, you can dry the stuff. That's fine, and go ahead with smoking that." joint."
Again, right? Because I'm like, who am I to judge whether or not that's good?
But you know
in
what the
terms
beautiful
of,
thing was?
breaking the bet.
You know what the beautiful thing for me was?
Tell
is
me.
that, it reminded me of when you're young and your parents don't let you do something, and then you're like, "Oh, please, just this one time," and they're like, "Okay, this time you can do it," and you're like, "Yes! Oh my God, this is so exciting!" Like the kid in me came out, and it was also exciting, which is like exactly what I love, because I don't have a problem with smoking weed, but I do like appreciating with anything.
Yeah.
If you do it too much, you just stop appreciating sort of what it can do for you, right? So for me, that moment was just very giddy and exciting, and I said, I just like that ability. I like restraining myself because I think modesty is a good thing, but the whole idea of you should be, what's the saying? it's not modesty. What do you call it? Everything in
Moderation.
moderation,
Yeah.
even moderation itself. So it's like you set up these rules, but even the rules themselves, occasionally you can
Right.
break, and that can give you joy as well.
That is true.
Because then you appreciate the same thing with the 5 a.m. thing. If one day you had been like, hey, can I wake up late because whatever, I'm trying to do this thing for Phoebe or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'd said yes.
Yeah.
You would have enjoyed
I
that
would have been
morning.
like, woo!
Yeah, like way more.
Yeah.
And I think that's the whole point of the bets almost.
Yeah.
Is to like all these things that I do that I just take for granted or that are like, you know, the whole point of me saying like, oh, I'm on my computer every night. Again, it's not a bad thing.
No.
But I should appreciate the like,
Yeah.
today I'm going to sit on the couch and play some chess. And it's a big thing.
Yeah.
It's like exciting.
Yeah.
And I lose that quickly
Yeah.
with everything I do. So I think in that way, I like the idea of like having a smoke day where it's like I'm in control of that. It can be a night. I have to decide when that night is. And it's like, because I really do like going out by myself and having that experience. Yeah, I'm sure some people will understand that. Some people won't. But just, yeah.
You sold me. Sounds good.
Okay. So then that would be all the changes. And I would still have to figure out the computer thing, cutting it out entirely.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Yeah. I mean, again, the only reason I'm hesitant about it is because I don't want to just sit on the couch and do nothing. I don't want to get home and be like, fuck, I can't play chess. I can't.
Yeah, I
I
don't
could still,
know.
the
No
only thing
idea
I could
what-
think is like I could listen to music and stare at the wall.
Listen to music. You could journal. You could meditate.
Yeah.
That's like
It's intense.
I don't
Once
know,
all your
that's a
things
good
become like
thing.
productive things, it's like I want something relaxing. Why do I keep thinking of a wood carving shop? It makes no sense. I don't know how to carve wood.
But that's why I want to do the writing challenge for me.
Right. It's
Like
something
I have
that
this
is not.
feeling of like there's definitely right when we finish work I'm like
Yeah.
and then there's part of me that goes like later on I'm like
Yeah. Yeah. What is that?
it's like I don't know, I want to do something now.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
I'm back a little bit.
Right.
Like I've had my
It's
relaxation.
your second wind.
Yeah.
I have that too.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times in my head, I'm like, God, I wish I had my computer. I would edit. And I actually think it's a really good thing that I don't have it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, no, I'll do something else. But then you're also like, yeah, but what? Maybe that's a sad thing. Maybe I'm just a sad guy. But I have a feeling that's more common than not.
This is actually I think maybe another element of why I felt like I was getting lazy.
Right.
Like meant it's like
Hey.
if anyone else
Come here. Hey.
the dog is whining because the doorbell rang and he thinks someone's coming up, but no one is.
Okay.
Shh. And it's not lazy. It's like it's just myself judging myself
Yeah.
and my thought process.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know what I'm doing.
Right.
Stop doing that.
Right.
I just really don't like swimming.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't like it.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of those things where setting this challenge, it's definitely gonna mean less swimming, if any. And there's an excitement in me that's like, yeah, I'm just gonna do the running because that's what I fucking like doing.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do the swimming.
Yeah.
That's kind of exciting. Like I'm
Yeah.
breaking the rule.
Yeah. But
That
you
I
have
set.
to- yeah, that's the thing.
And it's exciting. I'm like, I'm just gonna do the part that I like.
That's the thing.
And then maybe in a month I'll be like, oh fuck, I gotta do the thing. But it's also like, I did the 2.5 kilometer swim after like 4 swimming sessions. Like,
Right.
I could swim the 3.8.
Right.
I could do it.
Right.
So maybe, fuck the swimming. I'll just jump in the water on the date when I have
Yeah,
to
and
do the
just fucking
Ironman
do it.
and just do that and just be really good at the running because
Yeah.
it's cardio.
Yeah. Right.
That's exciting. And probably cut to a scene from me getting out of the water.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's a bet. We don't have a, whatever. We'll come up with a
Keep it the pizza thing. That fucking motivates the shit out of me.
pizza thing.
I'm
Fucking
never
pizza
going there to
thing.
order cheese pizza.
Yeah.
That's the scariest thought ever.
Um.
I went there the other week with my brother and they like forgot our order. And I was just imagining like if they then realized that they had forgotten it and made the pizzas and
Yeah.
they came out with cheese, and I then had to say that's wrong
Yeah.
and like insist. I was getting like all sweaty
Yeah.
handed.
Okay, I did want to talk about Patreon.
Yes.
So we had talked about it, and
We should definitely talk about Patreon.
yeah. So for those of you who don't know, Patreon is kind of a, I don't know. Can you explain it?
I think it came out of the whole crowdfunding industry, this
Right.
idea that you could fund projects by having people that know you or your fans,
Yeah.
however small that group
Yeah.
is, support you in that
Subscribe
project.
to a monthly payment.
But this is the difference, right? So it's not crowdfunding where you say, oh, hey, I'm making a movie.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I
Yeah.
need all of you guys to help out if you
Right.
would like,
Right.
by pledging a certain amount of money. And if
Right.
you reach the goal, then those pledges actually go into your bank account and you
Right.
can make your project. And
Right.
people have helped you make it. And it's
Right.
a nice community thing.
Right.
People support what they want.
Yeah.
Patreon takes it another step and they say, actually, we should not just support projects, but we should support creators themselves.
Right.
And on a monthly basis, you pledge a certain amount of money to support those creators in just whatever they are
Right.
doing. That could be
$1 a month.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be the smallest amount. It could be however much you want it to be. Actually,
Right.
I'm not sure how that works. But the idea being that it's
Yeah, me
reoccurring and that it's not for, like, you can say, hey, I have a job, but I also do a podcast.
Right.
It's getting a little difficult for me to spend as much time as I think is necessary to make it a good podcast. It
Right.
would really help if I didn't have to work quite as much.
Right.
If it also gives me a little bit of money.
Right.
If you guys are interested, pay us however much you want, and that means I can then, as a creator, create that thing that
So that's
people want to hear. Or
Yeah, I think that's an idea that we're moving towards in general
it's
because
definitely an
of
interesting idea.
not only us. I mean, we'll talk about us and the whole thoughts on that. But I think in the world in general, this idea that rather than paying the production house or the umbrella company and them trickling the money down to their creators or the people who create things, you can kind of circumvent that and just directly, if you do something and I like it and I consume it, 2 days a week, I can just pay you directly and say, that's great. I'm just going to
Keep
pay
doing
you
that.
for that content.
Yeah.
Maybe it's even content that you have to pay for to get it.
Yeah.
But that whole model, I think, works much better and empowers the person much more that is actually making the content. So you no longer rely on YouTube ad revenue, for example. You're now relying on specific singular people
Yeah.
that have committed to paying you. And a weird sort of branching out of this that I heard in a podcast was this idea that with porn, you can now subscribe directly to, whether it be girls or boys, to them directly and get their content directly and pay for it, which obviously we can still have the conversation of like the ethicality of porn and like what that all means and blah, blah, blah. But for sure, it's better that you're paying that
Them,
person
'cause then
directly.
they choose what they do.
Right, rather than Pornhub, who God fucking knows what that ad revenue looks like, how people get paid, or how that even works. I don't know. And, as much as we might be ashamed to pay for something like that, it's like, yeah, but if you're going to consume it, like live in a world a little bit. And I shouldn't be preaching this because I don't pay and I don't do anything like that, right?
Right.
But it's just something I'm starting to think about.
Yeah.
And the idea of it gets me very like, yeah, I should. If that's what I want to consume, I should have to pay. It shouldn't be this like thing that I just decide not to think about. Like, oh, it's some weird industry. It's shameful to talk about. It's like nobody really wants to bring it up. And it's like, okay, yeah, but a little bit. I think it's a better situation that that person, she or he, gets paid directly.
Yeah.
Now they're in charge of who they want to shoot with, how they want to shoot. They're not under the power of somebody larger who's like, okay, you're working this scene this week and we're going to pay you only if you do this. And you know, then suddenly the whole thing becomes like, oh, it's, ugh,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I think there's definitely something to the idea of paying the individual and also giving them the choice.
I think it
Do
gives
you
them the
want to
power.
pay or do you not?
Right.
Like, if you are someone who listens to a podcast or watches a YouTube channel,
Right.
you have the opportunity to support what you like and see more of that,
Yeah.
and not support other stuff that you don't like and see less
Right.
of that.
Right. It's more specific.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we've been thinking about it because as a whole, we're not making a ton of money at the moment. And I think, especially with this podcast, I mean, not that the goal is to make money at all.
No.
I think actually something that's interesting that's come out of it is that we said it's a form of like therapy in a way for it. Like there's something outside of just talking with the podcast that I think gives us both something that's maybe a little bit abstract and we haven't quite put our finger on, but we enjoy doing it for a host of other reasons. But just certain things in my head, I'm like, you know, it'd be nice for us to have 4 microphones so we could have guests on. And that's something that we really can't pull out of our pocket at the moment. And little things like that where it would help to have a flow of money from an alternate source that would, again, let us do precisely what we want to be doing.
Or just slightly more
Right.
of it.
Either more or more precise. So it'd be
Right.
like, you know, honing in on something because we're like, oh, now we don't have to do this for that little bit of extra money.
Yeah, so instead of working on 10 jobs,
Right.
Making ads for various companies.
Right. We could cut out one job and say,
spend that
exactly.
3-day period spread out over a week
Exactly.
or a month rather.
But
on
it does
something else.
It makes me feel very uncomfortable to ask for money
Yeah.
in general,
Yeah.
which is why I feel like now is weirdly a good time to do it because I would be even more now. Nobody fucking listens to us. I mean, I don't want to, I'm being a little bit self-deprecating. Of course, I know a few people listen to this,
Yeah.
but not in the scale of like,
You're comparing
this
it
is
to
like
other
a
podcasts.
totally,
Yeah.
you know, a speck of dust. Whereas if we ever do gain a larger following, suddenly it would become very difficult for me to be like, hey, we've got this Patreon thing. If you want to pay us, like that would be, you know,
Feels like at that point, do you need it? Whereas now it's like, yeah, there's a lot of good reasons for why that would
Right.
really benefit us
Right,
and
right.
help us.
right. But it's still an uncomfortable thing. Just sitting here now talking about it, it's like,
I think it comes down to, well, why are we doing it? And what is I guess why and what is the purpose are exactly the same thing.
right,
But like just the idea of, okay, so we're coming to a point where you can kind of see the end of Boris and Johan a little bit.
yeah,
And I'm working on the script for the next film we're going to make.
mm-hmm.
That's going to be something that needs to be worked on. And it's
Right.
going to be worked on outside of when we are making money.
right,
And that time isn't very large.
Right.
There's not a lot of it.
right.
Yeah, so I was saying that I
Yeah.
will,
Help me take my foot out of my own mouth.
that the next film we're working on
Mm-hmm.
is being worked on or will be worked on outside of what makes us money, because we're working on like promotional videos for companies and stuff.
Right,
That if we use something like Patreon to say, if you guys are interested in supporting
right,
the work we do,
right,
for a little bit of extra content, either uncut podcast scenes or extra podcast
Right.
clips or behind the scenes
we had
content,
talked about
or
doing some content that would just be
you know,
solely
getting
for-
access to trailers for the films we're editing,
right,
before they are released.
right,
I don't know. I feel like there's some things we could come up with that some people might find interesting,
right,
or not,
or
but
not,
would still want to support us.
right,
And that would allow us to work just a little bit more on the film.
right. I think it's also, you know, I would feel like we didn't try everything if we don't try this
Yeah.
option as well, because let's be honest, we're not raking in the money. And there are questions in the future of like, well, how much work will we have to do that's a little bit outside of our like focus zone, you know? If all the way on the right side you have wedding videos, and then all the way on the left side you have only doing feature films, it's like, yeah, we're somewhere on this scale, and it's constantly kind of going back and forth a little bit. And I think it would be foolish of us not to try something like that we can continue to try and scale things and say, we want to keep tipping to this side. And even if someone, you know, pledge it, they listen to the podcast, you know, 4 times a month basically, and they say, okay, that's worth 50 cents a month to me. It's like, great. That's a can of beans for us that we don't have to take out of the business budget for the thing that we worked on, you know? It sounds stupid, but it's like very, it's like true. But also, I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying.
No,
I haven't thought about it too much.
It totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I think it does. I
just feel uncomfortable asking for money. I think that's something that makes me very uncomfortable.
I think maybe it's this feeling of, well, now we kind of, I don't know. Now it's like now someone else is also involved a little bit. Like they've said,
right,
here's some money.
Right.
They're also maybe expecting us to use it a certain way. Or it's coming from somewhere else.
Right.
And there being a little bit of a shift just mentally.
Right. But is that just us?
I think it's a good thing, though. I think you'd feel like there are people who actually want to see the movie we're working on.
Right.
Whether it's because they're family members or they're, you know, friends.
Right.
Or there's a stranger in there who's like, I really like what they're talking about.
Right.
And I'm someone who wants to support what I like rather than just be told this is what's popular right now.
Right.
I want to watch the movies that I want to watch. And this sounds good.
Right.
I feel like that would be a nice feeling and a good thing and a motivating thing.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, let's fucking work on it. We have the opportunity to work on it a little bit more than we're used to.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. I think so too. So just expect that to be set up. I'm going to say it by the time this podcast is out. I don't think it needs to be a massive like unveiling.
No.
It's just
I think that's a good point. I do think there are certain things we want to look at. I read a couple articles briefly when we were talking about it last week. Just a couple things you want to have thought about, because it is like a platform where you post to it and you kind of maintain it. It's not just something that is.
Right.
But yeah, I'm sure we could do it very quickly. It doesn't have to be a big thing.
I think that, and then I like the idea too of just creating some extra content that might take, you know, a month or two to fully develop in terms of like, I don't know what we would have right now that people would want.
Yeah.
That wouldn't put us at jeopardy of like.
Again, I don't think the point is that people are buying extra content.
No, but it's still
just
nice
like
as like an appreciative.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
It's like a gesture. It's like, hey, we thought you might be interested in seeing some extra stuff.
Right.
You know, here you go.
Here's a nude photo of myself, you know.
I think that would be popular.
People have been asking for it, you know. Okay.
I'm glad you brought that up. I had forgotten about that we were going to talk about it.
Yeah, I didn't even, I was like, well, I mean, I can think about it as much as I want, and then we might as well just figure it out on the podcast and let people, I think, just get across the sort of like, the awkwardness of it, you know? It is awkward.
Well, I
don't want to focus on that too much, but
from when I did a crowdfunding campaign where I
would find that terrifying.
Crowdfunded 45,000 euros from nearly 200 different people over the course of 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I still haven't finished that project.
Right.
I feel, I definitely feel a sense of like this burden of like people thinking like, well, where did that money go to?
Right.
I'm like,
right. It's not
I am
you.
still working on it.
Yeah.
It's like I can say that as much as I want.
Right.
And people, I feel like once the film is done, then, you know, okay, now it's done. Now people will see that it's done. But
right.
It's like there is this feeling of other people have now become involved.
Yeah. Which is stressful.
But also motivating.
but also motivating, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. And then off of that, let's bring up the energy again. We had talked about, we need to have more guests on this podcast. It's interesting. It's kind of opens us up to a new thing and lets us get out of our, daily sort of
That's what I meant
cycle
by
of
challenging.
burning boat.
Yeah.
So, off of Patreon as well, this idea that like we do need to get some more equipment. I'm not saying we should buy it now. I mean, with what money? But I think that's something we can focus on, and making it almost a challenge for each of us to come up with guests, because it is uncomfortable and it's not a fun thing to ask some of those people, because maybe they're more business relationships or whatever, and to get fucking past it and be like, hey, we'd love to have you guys on the podcast and talk about what you're doing, because it's interesting. And I think other people would like to hear also about, we're starting a company, but so are other people in different fields.
Yeah.
And from them, you can also learn a million different things. I was just thinking, like, very quickly, those like app guys that I was talking to.
Right.
It's like, we're not working with them, but still be interesting. They've been supporting. They shared the reel that we put out and stuff.
Did they?
Yeah, and I'm like,
Oh, that's very nice.
yeah, it's just nice. They're starting an app. That's
Yeah.
I was like, how do you guys do? Why are you guys doing that?
Yeah.
Have you seen?
God damn it.
They said
So
to
what?
Have
So you have an idea for a challenge? Like,
I just thought, again, we can't do it right now because the lavs, the way we did it with Lily and Phoebe, first of all, we're sending those lavs away, so we won't have them.
but we have another one.
We have another set.
another set.
The only thing is, you guys could probably notice, like, the audio quality really sucks, and it puts
When
a
we
lot
don't
of-
use these.
Yeah,
It definitely.
because the issue is that the lavs, these really focus on our voices,
Yeah.
and they're directional, whereas the lavs pick up everything in the room. So you start to get this weird, like, if I'm sitting here and you're sitting there, your sound hits your microphone, and then slightly later hits my lav as well. So you get this weird, like, phased out sort of
technically, it decreases the quality of the
right.
podcast.
Right.
And
And
if-
in
and
my
if we
opinion,
had-
makes it a lot less fun to listen to, because like I listened to it without. I ended up going through all the audio, all the tracks, and soloing each single person and putting people together. And yeah, I did it quite quickly, but it's a ton of work,
Yeah, that's true.
and it doesn't sound good
But I mean,
compared to like when I just would solo Lily and Phoebe when they're talking.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's pleasant to listen to that. And as soon as the lav comes in, you're like, now it sounds like doo-doo.
yeah. But I also don't want it to like hold us back from having guests on just because we need more mics. And like you said,
Yeah, I mean,
where
maybe
are we
should
going to
just
get
do
mics
it.
from?
Well, I was also thinking we can try to fix your mic. I mean, we're not engineers, but it's just the cable.
And the one that I lent to Robin, I could ask for him to send that back.
That would be good, and then we'd be set.
That's a good point.
The only thing is we'd need to,
Upgrade that thing.
yeah. We'll see. But I think it would be fun to say, like, okay, once a month or twice a month. Twice a month might be a lot. Once a month,
I guess.
it rotates between us. One of us has to figure out how to get a guest, no matter what. Even if it's your fucking neighbor, at last minute, like, hey, do you want to be on this podcast? You shouldn't do that because nobody wants to fucking. I mean, maybe people do, but
Or suddenly I'm like, hey, these guys from Souls, they're here.
Right.
And you have no idea.
yeah, no, that'd be good. I just think,
I like that idea because I think we do need to just do it.
yeah, and it puts us in a more a less comfortable position. I think we've gotten very comfortable on this podcast. It doesn't require
Clearly.
a lot of effort anymore. And I like watching us be uncomfortable. Like that Patreon bit. I'm pretty. It's just good, Not everything's bees and flowers and honey. Is that the saying? It's a saying.
I love not saying anything, just to let you keep
Just
going.
keep shoving my foot in my mouth. All right. Well, yeah, I think we'll leave it on that.
I'm just curious, what else did you have?
Well, let me just quickly bring this up. This is just interesting. So I've been reading this blog called Wait But Why
Yeah.
as part of my reading. Sort of this, I don't even want to call it. Blog makes it sound like you're reading something like, 10 minutes and you're done with it. It's essentially like a short book, this blog that he's writing, and it's on Elon Musk. And one of the questions that just came out of it is that this idea of colonizing Mars and wanting to have an insurance policy on our species, basically, right? Mm-hmm. And I just find it fascinating that someone can think about humanity as a whole, as a species, zoom out so far, and then have the sort of compassion to think about, well, how can we preserve our species in the future? What are the steps that we can take? When I can't even stop thinking about myself for 2 goddamn seconds. You know, this idea of like even like global warming, like making it worse for the next generation. It's like, I feel like a lot of people obviously disagree with it, but it's still very hard to connect to that idea that like, yeah, I'll actually give a shit about the next generation when I'm not alive. It's just so fascinating to me that, you know, somebody is thinking about that. Somebody is thinking about humanity as a whole,
Yeah.
and trying to solve that issue. And not just in a, oh, we should do, like, legit solving an issue.
Yeah, I think does it annoy you when then someone else might say, "Oh, is he really doing it because he cares, or is he doing it because he just happens to be interested in that kind of stuff?" Or like I've heard some people that I respect talk about global warming and say like, "Oh, because you don't have an issue." Or their point seems to be, well, you don't know the answer. I don't know the answer. No one
Right.
fucking knows the answer.
Right. But we
so
do
kind
know
of like, what's
something.
the point then? Like, so why are you saying this?
I think
this
that's
is the thing.
that's the hard thing, because my mind a lot of times goes to, what's the fucking point? Who fucking cares?
Not who cares, but like,
I'm just saying for myself.
right. But I feel like that. Yeah.
Just that idea of like, even if I do something good, does it really have an impact? Like the whole one drop in a pool of water, you know, that sort of like, who fucking cares? What does it matter? We're all going to die anyways. The universe is going to end, blah, blah, blah. But then you have these people that are like so compassionate. And I find it so, again, you could say it's his ego and wanting to be remembered throughout history and whatever, but still you're putting a massive amount of stress on yourself. You're putting a ton of work, a ton of hours every week into solving a problem for everyone. And then the article got to, there's 2 things. I also read the whole article on Tesla, which is the electric car company that he's the CEO of. I don't know if he's a CEO anymore. I think he is. And they were saying, you know, the whole idea too is that when you press forward in a space like electric cars, you have to do all the legwork that all the other companies are gonna use then as well. You're gonna make it normal for people to want electric cars, and then Ford and Mercedes and BMW can all be like, great, now people want electric cars, we'll make them, but we don't have to bear the cost of marketing and sort of changing the public perception. We can kind of just piggyback off of
Yeah,
the
but
work that someone else has
you're
done.
never gonna be the original though. In the same way that like
No, but I'm
Samsung
saying
makes
that-
phones just the same as Apple does.
Right.
But Apple is Apple because they were the first people to do it.
Right, but for most companies, I mean, it's just a question of money. Well, how do we make more money? And that's the whole thing. That's why nobody pushed into the electric car industry, because they're all like, well, we don't want to have the research and development costs put on us, and then fucking BMW is just going to use that and sell their own car. And they're going to make a bunch of profit off of the work that we originally put into it. And then it's this idea that, like, you know, I also didn't know that they put a lot of their patents for Tesla. They just said anybody can use them. So it really is this thing of like, it's not only about making money, it's about moving to electric cars
Because it's good for the planet.
because it's good for the planet. And you can have an argument that's like, basically, even in an electric car, that electricity can come from burning coal, burning oil, you know, basically getting generators to turn and create electricity. But the simple argument is that it depends on like where you live in the world and how they create electricity where you live. And that most of the time where you live, it is going to be a cleaner source of energy. But not only that, when you move to electric cars, as we get better at creating energy as a whole in the world, as we make that cleaner all around, so the cars become cleaner because they're relying on the electricity that's being created on a power plant, miles away. So as those things get better, well, the cars then have less of a impact on the environment as well. So it's this like wholesome sort of system of like, as we progress, things get better. Whereas obviously with like gasoline cars, it's like you were just stuck on that thing. But I don't know. I just thought it was fascinating to read about a person who, again, you can say that he has an ego and wants to make money.
He's
and all
definitely
these
an
things.
interesting person. I've
Right.
I haven't read anything like that, but he does fascinate me.
Yeah.
Interesting. Definitely an interesting character.
And then it makes you look at yourself and you're like, what the fuck am I doing? It gives you a little bit of a kick in your step. And it's like, yeah, maybe I'm not going to do that. But it's like to remember that you do things for a reason. We are making films for a reason. We are, as much as I like to joke about it and ultimately say, well, it's just all for nothing and we're all going to die, whatever. It's like,
Yeah, you do say that.
Yeah. Which I believe as well. I'm a little bit split on the whole thing always, but it's, that's why I read this stuff and try to remind myself that it's like, people are able to do it. People are able to get past themselves.
Yeah, I mean, like with my film, it's like to deny that I'm not interested in making something that a lot of people will look at me like, wow, how did he make that? Or I wish I had come up with that.
Right.
Or that's really good.
Right.
Yeah, of course, I like those things are very interesting to me.
Right.
But I'm also trying to create something where someone could watch it and not have to do all the work I did to reach that conclusion. And that, like, by watching the film, they've learned something really valuable that they can use and take away afterwards. Right. It's kind of like, without that, you're not going to get the other things I just talked about.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, yeah, that is, to me, the main part of it.
Yeah. And I think a lot of time, just go back, it's very hard to move away from money, I think. I think it's very difficult to do something that would not be the most profitable solution. Something like releasing all the patents and letting anyone use them is like, well, obviously it makes more sense to keep those to yourself and force everybody to buy it off of you. But these little moments of integrity, and it's not only him, there's a couple other examples that I can't think of right now, but just when you see people stick to their beliefs and have integrity and not let, this idea of like power corrupts, money corrupts. It's like, yeah, but not always. There are situations where people have gotten past that, and it's just very refreshing to remind yourself of, especially when you're like me and have a bit of a pessimistic lens on the whole world, that you find these little gaps and these little acts of human sort of, I don't know if integrity is the right word, but just doing the unexpected, doing the thing that,
when you think of,
just makes you feel good.
When you think of someone, or when you think of your film, Boris and Johan, being completed, do you have like an image of what that looks like or feels like? That's a very vague question, but I have a very specific thing in mind.
No, I don't. What do you have in mind?
Like, no, I meant like, do you imagine it being screened to a lot of people, or do you imagine like some abstract thought of an individual watching and feeling something, or do you imagine it at a festival, or do you imagine someone talking to you about it? Like, do you have like a picture of what that is?
I don't know.
To me, with the film I'm writing, I imagine like a single person watching it.
Yeah.
In a movie theater, but that it's about them watching it, and then when they come out of the movie theater afterwards, they've thought about something that they haven't thought of before.
Yeah.
And like that's the main reason to me.
Yeah. I don't know if I could boil it down to one thing, but one thing I do really enjoy, and I've told you about, is when I see something that I thought I was the only one who does that or who experiences something like that, or and you see it on film and you're like, oh yes,
Yeah.
I've had that before.
Yeah.
And suddenly you have this insane connection with the director because you notice that the director was very vulnerable in even saying that to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
But it gives you the appreciation of being like, I'm not alone, you know. And I feel like that is so much of the human experience is trying to convince yourself that you're not alone and realizing that, you know, all the problems that you think are just relative to you are really problems that like everyone has.
Because we'll talk about scenes in my film or ideas in my film or even your film.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about mine.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm talking about. Where, you know, we're starting to get at something, but we're not quite sure what it is. Like, what's the actual answer?
Right.
What would they actually do?
Right.
And then we think about it for a week, and then we come up with an idea, and then we change it, and then we realize that actually it was this whole other thing.
Right.
That's real.
Right.
And so we've worked on this whole thing for so long, and then someone watches it, and they just get that final idea, and it
Right.
makes sense, and it works.
Right.
But they don't have to, like,
Go through
do the 2 months of work to really convey that thought correctly or
Right.
accurately. They
Right.
just get that feeling of, yes,
Right.
that's how I feel.
Right.
That's exactly how I feel.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
even know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of amazing.
Exactly. And it gives you comfort and it lets you know, it sounds so cheesy, but it lets you know that you are not the only person dealing with those issues.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, there's probably tools out there of, people who have gone through it. They might not have the solution, but maybe they got themselves out of that state of mind or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Then you could pick from those tools. And you don't have to go through 2 years of research because someone's already done it.
Yeah. Which is like what everyone has. Like you just look at someone who knows what they're talking about, and you're like, I'm going to try that. That makes sense.
Totally.
And you build off of that.
Yeah.
Everyone
and then, of
builds
course,
off
it's
of everything that already existed.
Yeah, and it's always obviously a balance as well of like you figure out things for yourself and you cherry pick what you like from other people.
Mm-hmm.
And that is that. That is that. We can talk about Boris and Johan next week. I think that might be more interesting because we'll really be in the grind at that point. And I'm sure we'll want to bitch about it a little.
Let's go sound design this movie.
Yep. We'll see you next week.
On Burning Bow Business.
I'm Burning Boat Business.
Now with Patreon.